much for making this food for me, Grandma. It is so yum.
Welcome, darling.
Grandma, what are some of your favorite memories?
Gosh, that's quite the question. But you know, after 92 years on this earth, I have 3. Birth of my kids, traveling the world with your grandpa, and that one morning when I clicked on this YouTube video by Becky V, and in this video I was given the blueprint to achieving my wildest dreams and to free myself from the life of a corporate slave, a mindless cog in the capitalist machine, a matrix NPC. I owe that YouTuber everything. G'day, ni hao. I'm Becky V. Let's just get right into it. This video is going to be split into 4 parts. Part 1, who the heck am I? And why do I have any authority on this topic whatsoever? Part 2 is going to be a brutal honesty chapter. Basically, it's going to be 3 things that I wish someone had told me before I started my journey because it would have prevented a lot of suffering. I want to approach making this video as if I was your best friend who isn't afraid to get real with you because I genuinely want what's best for you. Part 3 is going to be practical tips on how to actually get started. And the 4th and final part is going to be a little bit of my personal decision-making process and how I knew that this is what I wanted to do. For 99% of my life, I was a STEM kid. You know how in high school you have those little friendship cliques? You got your jocks, your theater kids, the nerds. I was that. I went to the #1 university in Australia. I did a Bachelor of Science. Got 2 of my dream jobs right after graduation. The first one was working in the science department at that university, and the second one was at my dream nature conservancy organization. And then suddenly I decided to throw all of that into the bin, and I told everyone in my life that I'm gonna go into show business. I didn't know 100% exactly what in show business, actor, musician, comedian, I don't know. I just sort of had an idea that I really wanted to perform for a living. So I quit my sensible, well-respected STEM jobs and, long story short, made my childhood dreams come true. Like going to the top performing arts school in Melbourne, writing, acting, and directing my own films, getting followers. But here is the thing. Whilst I do not regret this bonkers career pivot, it was the right decision. It also was not and remains not an easy decision. If this video helps just one person with this ginormous decision in front of them, my work here is done. Brutal honesty #1. When we deliberate and pontificate over these big life crossroads, do I chase my dreams or do I be sensible and responsible? You generally have 2 camps, right? You have the "you got this honey, YOLO fam, just believe in yourself" camp. The other side, you have the "are you cooked in the brain? How are you gonna pay rent? All the good roles go to Nepo babies and Sydney Sweeney anyway, so why would you even bother" camp. I fall somewhere in the middle. I'm aware that trying to give a nuanced take on the internet is very challenging, but I'm gonna try to do it anyway. Look, I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is this is not High School Musical. Gabriella outperforming Sharpay and Ryan, who have been training since they were infants. Girl, you will have to work for it, unlike Gabriella. Making a career pivot is always going to be hard. My hot, controversial take is that making a pivot from a STEM background into a creative, artsy career is harder than the opposite. Cue all the lawyers and med students coming from my throat in the comments. The reason why is not because of anything technical. You don't have to memorize the entire human skeleton and the names of every single ligament in your body like you would if you were a med student. But because if you're doing med, you have a very well-trodden path ahead of you. It's a treacherous path, but you know that if you do this and this and this, you do all these steps, you know you will become a doctor by the end of it. Whereas for a creative profession, There is no path. I said there was good news too. Remember how I said that there are two camps for this argument? If you are watching this video, I bet you are like me in that you were raised being sold this narrative way more. You were probably creatively suppressed as a kid. You probably loved to daydream. You probably loved to perform stupid skits for your very patient parents. I'm guessing you were also told from a very young age that all that creative stuff is not really important. What's actually important in life is getting a stable, high-earning job. And not only that, you were probably also actively warned against doing art because pursuing arts as a profession is reserved for only reckless, childish people. Let those people go try and chase their dreams. One day they will come back to their senses, come back down to reality, and get a proper, real job. Pursuing anything art related is cringe. You're respectable if you pursue STEM. A woman in STEM, how virtuous. When you are fed this entire narrative, you start to believe that making a creative job a reality is impossible. The good news is, it is not impossible. If you're watching this video, your worldview probably skews this way. You gotta retrain your brain to come back into this healthy middle, because both of these ends are fantasy. That dream of yours to perform for a living is 100% possible for everyday people, even the plebeians like you and me. Brutal honesty number 2. As Dr. Therapist Miss Taylor Swift once said,
You're only as hot as your last hit, baby.
and this is 100% accurate. No matter what success you get in this field, it never feels like it sticks around for very long. Maybe your feature film gets the grand jury prize at the Sundance Film Festival. Then after that massive high, you go 10 months with rejection after rejection after rejection, and you will think to yourself, this is the end. My career dead. This is normal. You gotta be honest with yourself and do some soul searching. Can you withstand this unavoidable roller coaster of a ride? Although you can train yourself to be more resilient. I know I'm definitely way more mentally resilient today than I was 5 years ago. One tactic I use when I'm deep in my flop era is called negative visualization. I learned it from this philosophy book over here. Basically, whenever I find myself full of despair and hating my life and wanting to quit because I feel like it's pointless and I just want to go back to a normal 9 to 5, I picture what my alternative life could look like. And it's not hard to imagine because I've lived that life.
Clocking in and clocking out to my gray little cubicle, seeing coworkers I really don't want to see. How was your weekend? Like,
when I negatively visualize this alternative, it makes it so much easier to stop feeling sorry for myself and just get on with the work because I know which life I'd rather. Brutal honesty number 3. This is something I don't see people online talk about much when we're discussing the topic of leaving your traditional, well-respected job to pursue a creative pathway, which is why I'm going to talk about it. And that is ego. A big barrier for me that made me hesitate to take my love for performing seriously is the blow to my ego. I'm not afraid to admit that status is important to me. And I think that it is important to most people, whether they want to admit it or not, whether they are conscious of it or not. Quick story time. My parents are doctors, and I have so many memories of when I was a kid in Malaysia. You know how in school you chat with your friends and you start talking about parents and what they do. Every single time I said my parents are doctors, it would be met with so much adulation. And as a young, impressionable little girl, I really clocked that response. Oh, everyone seems to think my parents are really cool just because they're doctors. So I should strive for a similar sort of job so that when I grow up, I can be respected as well. I think this happens a lot more in Asian countries where there's tiers of citizenship, with doctor and lawyer being first class. And if you are in the performing arts, no cap, but you are literally viewed as not the brightest. Like you were too stupid to be doctor or lawyer, so you had to settle for theater performer. That was the reality of school in Malaysia. That narrative was drilled into me. And I think this concept can be tricky to grasp for people who grew up in richer countries where generally there is a more arts positive culture. But if you think about it, for most of European history, performers were viewed as second-class citizens or even criminals. Definitely during Shakespearean time and even up to like 19th century Europe, I believe, performers had extremely low social status. Partly because the church had so much power and the church declared performers as immoral, criminal, corrupting the public. Actresses were seen as like, no better than sex workers. Actually, I remember even after moving to Australia, I still noticed this social stigma towards performers. I remember in my final year of high school, we were all forced to do careers counseling, and one of my classmates told the counselor that he wanted to be an actor. I remember the careers counselor immediately responded with, "You can't say actor, you have to give me a real job." Till this day, I still get pitiful looks whenever the topic of career comes up in conversation and I tell people what I do for a living. You have to be so solid about what success looks like for yourself and not let anyone else determine what it is for you. I need to tell you the most groundbreaking thing my therapist ever told me. It went like this: "Becky, do you like your life?" "Yeah, it's not perfect, but nothing is, and so generally I like my life." "Why do you like your life?" "Well, I have amazing friends, a wonderful partner, and my career pivot is going surprisingly well right now, so..." You see the pattern there? No. Every single thing that you just mentioned is an external thing. This is dangerous. You are basing your entire self-worth on things that are external to you, when your self-worth should come from the inside. All of those external, outside things, they are never in your control. And as soon as one of those things leaves you, and they will, because that is life, your self-worth is gonna be poof, gone. To survive in an industry as fickle and scrutinized as the entertainment industry, you need, now more than ever, to have an abundance of unconditional love for yourself, no matter what anyone else on the outside is telling you. Because people are gonna talk shit about you in your career multiple times. And that is the tea. Now, welcome to part 3, which is the practical session. We're gonna talk about money. We're gonna talk about how the fuck do I start? Where the fuck do I get work? In terms of how to actually get started, if you, like me, are going into this later in life and you have dedicated most of your life to something completely different, like in my case, biology and chemistry and maths, you have a lot of catching up to do. You're probably gonna have some moments where you think to yourself, what even is the point? Competing against people who have been acting, singing, dancing, writing since they could walk. What chance do I have against those people? And this, my friend, is when I would like to introduce you to the concept of abundance versus scarcity mindset, which I learned from this book over here. TLDR, the summary of it all is that the abundance mindset is when you believe that there is enough to go around for everyone. Whereas the scarcity mindset is when you believe there is not enough to go around, we need to grab what we can, Hunger Games style. You know people like this in your life already. Those are the people who, when their friends get a promotion, they get salty. The opposite end, people with the abundance mindset, when their friends get a promotion, they are just over the moon for that friend. They understand that this is not the Hunger Games. To succeed in this career, you must adopt the abundance mindset. Because it is true. You underestimate just how many opportunities there are, especially these days with the internet. I sound like a boomer when I say that. Anyone can be noticed and seen. My biggest, most practical advice to you is to never stop training. This is a lifelong commitment, because something I notice is that the people who rise to the top of this industry are the ones who spend every single day honing their craft. And I mean every single day. Even if it's just 5 minutes a day, honing your craft every day has to be as non-negotiable as brushing your teeth and drinking water. And here's a big secret, and if you forget everything else in this video, that's okay. Just remember this one thing I'm gonna tell you right now. If you do tiny efforts every day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, compounding effect of tiny daily effort is astronomical and it's gonna put you leagues ahead of 99% of people, because I promise you, 99% of people who are trying to make it in this industry are not honing their craft every day. And the trick really is to not go too hard too soon. I learned this trick from this book everyone and their grandmother has heard about. In the book, the author suggests 2 minutes of daily practice to begin with. I understand the frustration of, damn, I wish I started earlier, because now I'm gonna be playing catch. I've been there, I feel you. I'm gonna tell you one story that changed the way I saw this forever. When I first started thinking about even stepping into the entertainment industry, what I would do is clock off my 9 to 5 and go into nighttime acting classes, just to give myself a little taste of what this is even like. In those nighttime classes, I met a woman who was, I don't know, 55 years old. I remember this one time, it was the end of class, we were also sitting around having a deep and meaningful conversation, and this 55-year-old woman started crying because she was like, I mean, I'm happy to be here, guys, this is what I love doing, but I wish I started when I was in my 20s, but I decided to suppress that and just go along with the acceptable, traditional, safe career pathway. Watching her say that, I saw a glimpse of my possible future. I was like, I ain't gonna be like her when I'm 55. No way. I don't want to have that regret in life. I gotta take this seriously right now. I mean, no offense to her, very brave to come to a class of 20-something-year-olds when you're a 55-year-old. Mad respect, but still, I don't want to be like that when I'm 55, bro. What I'm getting at with this story is, no matter how old you are, there is someone way older than you who wishes they started at your age. This is a book I highly recommend. It's great for people who feel like they need to grow themselves creatively. There are practical exercises you can do in this book every day for free, and they take 2 minutes. When we're talking about how to actually find work, we can't avoid talking about agents, managers, whatever you want to call them. To be honest, how to get an agent is no real secret. A lot of them say what their requirements are on their websites. You can even DM them, email them, and ask them directly. Usually what they'll require from you is a portfolio. They want to see what you can do. This is something I wish was drilled into me way sooner. I lost sleep over agents and managers. I would go into a frenzy trying to get the top agencies to notice me and want me. Here's the tea. You don't need them. The most successful creatives I know are the ones who made their own work and put it out there by themselves, and not the ones who just waited by the phone, waiting and wishing and hoping that their agent would give them a job. No one likes to hear this because making your own shit is hard. This is why I go back to my former most important piece of advice, which is start training and never stop training. Once you feel like you've trained enough, you know, you've leveled up a little, you got some skill points, that's when you start making. But you never stop training. You gotta trust that process, that if you just don't stop making and training and 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 making and training, that one day you will make something that is not shit, and also you will make something that everyone starts talking about. And then these agencies that you've long admired will be sliding into your DMs. I'm not saying that agents are useless. What I'm saying is that they are not the be-all and end-all, especially in the early stages of your career. Create your own work and more work will come to you. Let's chat about money real quick, because unfortunately, it is something we have to contend with. Austin Nasso is a comedian I follow. If you haven't already, you have to check out his Trump impressions. They are the best Trump impressions that I've ever seen in my life, period. He mentioned that he was hustling in comedy for like 12 years. I remember he mentioned that before quitting his job at Microsoft, he had made sure that he had saved enough money so that while he was pursuing comedy full time, he could go and buy some sushi for lunch at a whim and not be like financially stressed about that decision. And I resonate. There is a bit of glamour and hype around just quitting a job and being a broke and starving artist and making amazing art despite being broke and starving, or even because you are broke and starving. I do not buy that for a second. I submit that most creatives out there actually have quite comfortable backgrounds, which makes sense because your body needs nutrition and sleep in order to think and function optimally. What a concept. Like I previously mentioned, when I first started doing this, I kept my 9 to 5 and was doing nighttime acting classes. People make an excuse of like, if I'm not pursuing this with all of my time and energy, it is not worth it. Look, your decision does not have to be an all or nothing. In my opinion, it is better to pursue your craft part-time than not at all. Our fourth and final chapter, I would like to share with you my decision-making process when it came to ripping off the band-aid. Hopefully this will help with your decision-making process as well. Here's the thing, I got to a stage in my life where I was like, I did the smart thing, the right thing, the sensible thing, the responsible thing, and yet I'm not happy and I'm not rich. I was told that if I study, be a good girl, get good grades, go to uni, go into STEM, that I would be able to, buy a house and be happy. With this economy and Melbourne's housing market being so cooked, it meant that I would still need to get a side hustle, probably several side hustles. I realized then and there is no easy route in life. Everything is hard. And if everything is hard, and I'm not raking it in, even with my respectable woman in STEM job, I might as well be doing something that actually fulfills me. That was one of the first turning points. Another important turning point for me was the question of, but what if it doesn't work out? Well, for me, the question of, but what if it does work out, haunted me way more. I wanted to give this a real proper go. I was okay with backtracking and deciding that this lifestyle is not for me and going back to a regular corporate 9 to 5. That is infinitely a better reality for me than the reality of me being in my deathbed and wondering, but what if I had just tried? The older I get, the more I realize that we limit ourselves. When I was younger, I would have all these problems and I'd be so quick to blame those problems on my parents, my teachers, my co-workers, whoever it is, just not myself.
These people steered me in the wrong direction. If it weren't for them, I would be successful and happy.
But at a certain point, you gotta take responsibility, because when you do, you are so powerful, bro, and I mean that sincerely. Going from scientist to actor was the best decision I ever made, not just because of the career aspect of it, but because more importantly, it taught me that no matter how old I am in life, if I wanted to do a 180, I already possess the power to do so. And that lesson applies to you as well, my internet friend. As we are fast approaching the end of the year of our Lord, 2025. In last week's video, I go into detail of my 365-day grand scheme for 2026. Basically, I plan on rebranding my entire life, not just my career. I will be documenting that entire messy journey here on YouTube. So if you're curious to see me walk the walk, not just talk the talk when it comes to personality pivoting, hit the cheeky subscribe, because that is in a nutshell what my entire channel is about. Regretting your previous life decisions, but doing something about it. I need a better tagline because that is not catchy whatsoever. I would do anything to hear your thoughts, comments, and feedback on this topic. So don't be shy and leave a comment. Or if you have subscribed, you can also leave a post on my community page on YouTube. Lovely having you here. And I'll see you very soon.